when an 11-year-old boy stood in front of a packed courtroom, his small hand trembling as he pointed at the very people who were supposed to care for him. The judge thought it might just be another desperate cry for attention. But then, as the boy slowly rolled up his sleeves, revealing bruises too severe to be ignored, a stunned silence fell over the room, hearts gripped by shock. Where are you watching from? And if you believe in the power of courage, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. Noah sat alone in the very back row of Miss Turner's homeroom at Boneville Middle School, his slight frame barely filling the worn leather seat. He was a small boy, just below average height for his age, with messy dark hair and wide, watchful eyes. That chilly Monday morning in late September, he walked into the classroom hugging his backpack tightly to his chest. His uniform, a plain blue polo and loose khaki pants, hung off his thin frame. As he placed his backpack down on his desk, Miss Turner immediately noticed faint bruises on his forearms. They seemed to be at least a week old, but they were undeniable. She swallowed her concern for the moment, hoping there was some reasonable explanation. Kids could be rough and tumble after all. But the way Noah kept his head low, avoiding eye contact, spoke volumes. He seemed wary, as if shrinking under every adult's gaze. Taking attendance, Miss Turner called out, "Noah Jackson?" A hesitant hand lifted. "Here," he mumbled, his voice so soft she had to lean in just to hear him. Throughout the day, Miss Turner found herself watching him more closely. Maybe the bruises were from something harmless, a fall from a bike, a rough game of soccer? But the more she observed, the more she noticed a pattern. The way he flinched, as if expecting to be struck, the way his shoulders tensed at sudden movements, it was like he was always bracing himself for something. When the final bell rang, Noah quickly gathered his things, but before he could slip away, Miss Turner approached gently. "How was your first day?" she asked, her voice warm with encouragement. "It was fine," he murmured, keeping his gaze on the floor. She hesitated, then softly asked, "Everything okay at home?" For a brief second, Noah's eyes flickered up to hers, but just as quickly, he looked away. "It's okay," he muttered, throwing his backpack over his shoulder before hurrying out the door without another word. Miss Turner frowned, resisting the urge to follow. Maybe she was overthinking things. But something about the way he carried himself told her otherwise. She decided to keep a closer watch on him before making any assumptions. As the week went on, Noah kept to himself. He completed his assignments without any extra effort, just doing the bare minimum. During lessons, he often stared out the window, lost in thought. At recess, instead of playing, he stood near the fence, never joining the games. He wasn't disruptive, never caused trouble. And yet, the bruises, they weren't fading. Some even seemed fresh. By Thursday, Miss Turner spotted faint, new discoloration near his wrist. Her concern deepened. On Friday, as Noah struggled with his locker, his fingers shaky, Mr. Reynolds, the school janitor, was mopping nearby. The old metal lockers clanged loudly as students shut them. Mr. Reynolds glanced at Noah just in time to notice a dark purple bruise on his forearm, an odd shape, almost like a handprint. Having worked at Boneville Middle School for nearly 15 years, Mr. Reynolds had seen plenty of kids come and go. But something about Noah, the exhaustion in his posture, the quiet dread in his eyes, hit him hard. Finally getting his locker open, Noah grabbed his textbook and shut the door. He glanced at Mr. Reynolds, offering a small, almost forced nod of acknowledgement. "Have a good weekend, kid," Mr. Reynolds said gently, pausing his mop. Noah nodded again, then quickly hurried away. As Mr. Reynolds watched him retreat down the hall, an uneasy feeling settled in his chest. He'd seen kids carry burdens too big for their small shoulders before, and he had a gut feeling Noah was one of them. The following week, Miss Turner confided in Mr. Wood, the English teacher across the hall. They often shared concerns about struggling students over lunch breaks. Lowering her voice, she said, "There's a new boy, Noah Jackson. He transferred last week, and I have a strong feeling something's not right at home." Mr. Wood raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "He has bruises," Miss Turner explained. "Not just one or two. They seem to come and go. New ones keep appearing." And there's something about the way he acts. He's too quiet, almost afraid to speak up. Mr. Wood, a thoughtful man in his early 30s, nodded. Should we talk to the school counselor? Miss Turner sighed. That's the problem. Miss Fuller is only here part-time, and she's already stretched thin. But yes, I'll bring it up to her. Days turned into weeks. Noah remained withdrawn. He flinched at sudden noises, tugged his sleeves down when teachers were near, and though his schoolwork was decent, his emotional state was setting off alarms. Meanwhile, Mr. Reynolds took it upon himself to check in whenever he saw Noah in the hallway. You doing okay, kid? He'd ask, leaning on his broom. Noah would nod quickly, always trying to slip away. Still, Mr. Reynolds persisted, never pushing, just offering small moments of kindness. How's life treating you, Noah? Or you need anything, son? Hoping that one day, if Noah needed help, he'd know where to turn. One late afternoon, as the final bell rang and students flooded out, Mr. Reynolds noticed Noah lingering by the water fountain long after the halls had emptied. Clearing his throat, he approached. Time to head home, buddy, he said, keeping his tone light. Don't want to miss your bus. Noah inhaled sharply, as if snapped out of deep thought. I'm not taking the bus, he whispered, voice tight with anxiety. Mr. Reynolds frowned. Waiting for your foster parents to pick you up? Noah's shoulders tensed. They told me to walk if they don't show, he murmured. Glancing at the clock, it was already half an hour past dismissal. Mr. Reynolds felt a knot form in his stomach. The school was nearly empty, and it was getting cold outside. Where do you live? He asked. Noah rubbed his arm, wincing at his own touch. Not too far. Mr. Reynolds sighed. Come on. Let's check if Miss Turner's still here. Noah hesitated, but eventually followed. His small frame looked even smaller as he walked beside the janitor, glancing nervously at the doors as if expecting something, or someone, to burst through. They found Miss Turner just as she was packing up. Seeing Noah, she smiled. You're still here? Everything all right? He shrugged, eyes downcast. Mr. Reynolds quietly pulled Miss Turner aside, explaining the situation. She turned back to Noah, concern deepening. Would you like me to call your foster parents? She asked carefully. Just to check in? Noah stiffened. No, he said quickly, shaking his head. It's fine. They said I should walk. Miss Turner and Mr. Reynolds exchanged glances. It was getting dark. No responsible guardian would leave an 11-year-old to walk home alone this late. Making a decision, Miss Turner picked up the phone and dialed the number on file. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. And again. No answer. Something was very, very wrong.